So Hunter did a great job of naming our two shapes. We got a semicircle and we got a triangle. So great job. First thing we do is write down the shapes. Second thing we do is write down the formulas. We're trying to find the area of the figure. And so we split it up. I think they call it like decompose it into different shapes. And then we find the areas of those simple shapes. So area equals 0.5 pi r squared, and area equals 1/2 base times height. So now it's simply checking out those shapes and plugging in the appropriate numbers. So it says 3.14 for pi, and the radius, we know that all the way across is 8, so halfway across would be 4. So we got 4 squared there. All right, and then once we calculate that, we are going to get, looks like 25.12. And then we have the area of the triangle. We know that the base and the height always meet at a right angle, so that's going to be this line and this line, which is 8 and 14. When we multiply those, we get 56. And what do we do with those answers? Add them. So we got 25.12, and we add 56. So that gets us 81.12. 81.12, and that's going to be centimeters squared because we're finding area. Square units for area. All right, we're moving right along. I find that we're making some headway and making sure everybody understands. Some of us are still lagging behind just a little bit, but hopefully we get everybody up to speed. What is the area? Oh, it's asking for area again. So I'm going to use all those area formulas we know of the shaded region. As soon as I see that word shaded, that makes me think I might be subtracting in this one because this one has a big gap in the middle. That square is like a hole in the middle that we have to subtract. So we're going to write down the two shapes. We got a circle, and then the unshaded, it's a square, but I'll call it a rectangle for now just because I like that formula better. We're doing area, so we do area equals pi r squared for a circle, and the area of a rectangle is just length times width. All right, now this is the part that we get confused on a little bit, is writing the correct numbers in the correct spots of our formulas. So let's get started. I'm going to put this as unshaded right here because I want you to be aware that we typically subtract the unshaded portion from the whole portion. Right? We imagine that the unshaded part isn't there. It's like shaded in. And then we take it away, the shaded area. Okay, so anyway, we have 3.14. The radius of this, remember radius always goes from the center to the edge of a circle. So that they gave it to us this time. We didn't have to cut it in half or anything. And we have an approximate area for that circle of 401.656554. Kind of crazy. And then we find our area of the unshaded region, which we're going to eventually subtract. And that, the length and width of that, looks like 16 tells us the length of this side. It fits inside of the circle perfectly, so it must be a square. And so we just have 16 times 16, which comes to exactly 256. All right. And then because we're dealing with an unshaded part, we have to take the total area as if this whole thing was shaded in. That's what this is. As if the whole thing were shaded in. That's what our first answer was. Now we got to erase that part inside the square. So erasing is kind of like subtraction. So we're going to do the 6554 minus the 256. And we're going to round as well because it says round nearest hundredth. So that gets us 145.66 rounded. That's my rounded answer. So our answer here. And it's area, so it's going to be centimeters squared again. Now we are moving right along. We're going on to the next one.
We do all the questions.
Another one where we have to find areas of simple figures, and then we have to add them up. All right. Who put their line down this way? Just raise your hand if you put your line down this way to cut them up. Who put your line across the top like that?
Actually,
All right. A couple of us. We could do it either way. I'm going to do it that way. Sometimes I like to just draw it right in here. This is a rectangle, right? This rectangle, we find the area of that. And here's another rectangle, and I'm going to find the area of that. Now, I need my length and my width.
No, I need that.
Okay, we have an area, dimensions of 9.5 and 8.25, right? I like to just trace along the edge, even if it's just with my finger on the computer screen. I'll just trace along the edges. The two edges that meet at a right angle are my length and width. Okay, now when I multiply those, I get 78.375. And my other one, when I trace along the outside of this, I only get one number. I got the 5.5. But I don't have that other number. I know that 16.25 is that whole thing. But I don't know what this little portion of the rectangle is, that little portion. Can anybody share with me how you found that little portion? Kyle?
Cut it in half.
Cutting it in half will not work in this case. You can't just eyeball it and think, oh, it looks about half. You have to use other measurements. Okay, Abby?
I just subtracted 8.25 from 16.25.
Okay, we know that to that point, right here along there is 8.25. So then we can take the whole length of 16.25 and subtract the 8.25 and get what's left, which is the portion we need, which comes to 8. So that little portion we needed was 8. So we could put an 8 there. And when we multiply, we get area equals 44. And now that we have the two areas, we have that area and that area. It's a composite shape, so we're going to add those up. 78.375 plus 44. That comes to a grand total of 122.375, which when we round to the nearest hundredth comes to 122.38 square yards. Here we go. So we got 122.38 square yards, and if we look at the next part of the problem, it tells us how much it costs per yard. So it says here that they're getting new carpet installed, and it costs that much per yard. Oops, I'm going to underline that. All right, what's the total cost? That's what we're trying to find. So it's that much per yard, and we know it's 122.38 yards. What are we going to do? What operation? Yeah, multiplication. So all we have to do is take our answer from the previous one and multiply it by how much it costs per yard. And that gets us a grand total of $3,365.45. Okay, why? You might be asking yourself, why are we multiplying? Oh my goodness. Part A told us the number of square yards. And part B told us how much it was going to cost for each of those square yards. So every single square yard is $27.50 more. So that's like adding $27.50 122 times. That's a multiplication idea. All right. When we add something over and over again, it's multiplication. That's what I was saying. All right, so we're on to the next one. We're saying, what is the volume of the box? And we know that volume formula on our reference sheet, volume equals capital BH, and we know that capital B is the area of base. The area of the base of the prism, big B base. So we're going to replace that since it's a rectangular prism. Since it's a rectangular prism, we know we're going to replace big B with LW. So if we look at that base here, we are going to replace the L and the W with 12.4 times 17. And then we see the height of the prism is 5.5. And when we multiply all those beautiful numbers, we get 1,159.4 inches to the third cubed, inches cubed, because it's volume, three-dimensional measurement. So that gets us this guy right there. And we are... All right, we're on to number 12. We're getting there. We are slowly but surely... Oops, I like to box that out. What is the volume of the eraser? Now, this volume, we like to pick out the shape. The volume is a triangular prism. If you don't know your shapes, you're going to be in trouble. Triangular prism, and we're finding volume, so we look for the prism volume formula, and it's big B, little h. Write it down. Now, I'm going to modify this a little bit because I know that big B is the area of the base. And in this case, the base is a triangle because it has the two parallel congruent faces that are triangles. So I'm going to replace the big B with 1/2 base times height. Now I'm going to substitute in the numbers I need. Now, notice the B and the H, the initial B and H, these ones here, they only refer to the base of this shape, which is a triangle. So we're only looking at this triangle first. Only look at the triangle right there. Okay, this triangle right in the front. And we're looking for the base and the height of it. So that's 1.5 is the base, and then the height we see meets it at a right angle, so that's 1.2. And now the height of the whole prism is this next H. The height of the whole prism is that next H, and we always know the height of a prism because it's the line that finds the distance between the two bases, or it's the line that connects the two bases, so that's going to be times 6 there. All right, and we get volume equals, when we multiply there, we get, so we get the volume of 5.4, and because it's volume, it's going to be centimeters cubed in this case, and that is our final answer. So we multiply by a half here because, right here, that little half, because the base is a triangle and we're finding the area of the base. Now we're moving on to 13. We have, what shape is this? Looks like a rectangular pyramid. Guys, can you please check your formula sheet for the volume of a pyramid? Oh no, it's not there. It's not there, and you won't have anything else. You only get this. So I showed you a video that was supposed to help you remember this. Ava, what's the formula? Right, big B. And indicate that when we say it, let's just make sure we remember to say capital B or big B, because that big B is important, very important in these. All right, remember the volume when we filled up one of the pyramids and dumped it in? It only filled up a third of a prism. So that's, you'll only have the prism formula. You have to remember the pyramid formula. All right, we just have to plug in now. The base shape is a rectangle, so we can just do LW. and put the H with it. All right, and we have the 1/3 still. Now, the LW just referred to the base here, so that's going to be 5 times 5. And then the height always meets the base at a right angle, and so that's 8.4. So when we do the calculations, we get 70 inches cubed because we're doing volume. So how much modeling clay? It says how much modeling clay, which is a disguised way to say find the volume. We are on to number 14 here. Let's go. Joey has a toy box and it. They give you this information. What is the length of the toy box? So look, we're looking for a dimension, a length there. So, how do we do this? Well, it's a rectangular prism. All right, so we know it's going to be, since it's a prism, we're going to use volume equals big B, little h. Volume equals, since it's a rectangular prism, the area of the base, right? The base is a rectangle, so LWH.
Pardon this interruption, this is Ms. Jones. Due to the inclement weather, the 8th grade social unfortunate.
Back at it, sorry for the interruption. All right, now, guys, what are we going to leave? Which of the variables? Just raise your hand when I point to it. Which one is going to be left in here, not replaced by anything? Who says the V? Who says the L? Who says the W? Who says the H? All right, it says what is, so that's going to remain our unknown. So L is going to stay there. So we're going to replace V with 27.6, and we're going to leave the L in there. We're going to substitute in the width, which is 2.3, and the height, which is 3. So this is one where we're going in reverse now. We've got 27.6 equals, that comes to L times, that's 6.9. And then how do we find L? We divide. We're going to solve by division here. 6.9. L equals, and that comes to, yeah, that's nice. I love when they come out to nice numbers like 4. All right, is that 4 feet? 4 feet squared, 4 feet cubed? It's a length. It's not an area. It's not a volume. So therefore, it's just 4 feet. 4 feet. All right. This is so fun. Let's go on to 15. Total surface area. Woohoo!
Yay.
Total surface area. We got to break this into all its shapes. Show me on your hands, please. How many faces this shape has? How many faces does it have? All right, so we have 5 faces here. 5 faces. We have, I'm going to call this the front and back triangles, because since it's a triangular prism, we have 2 matching ones. So I'm going to take care of those at once. All right. Then I got this bottom, I'll call it the bottom rectangle. Bottom rectangle. I got the, I don't know, let me call this the slanted rectangle. You call it what you want, what makes sense to you. What I'm talking about there is this big slanted one. Okay, and then I got the, I don't know what I want to call this one, the left rectangle. The back rectangle, I don't know. You call it what you want. Make sure that it makes sense to you. Once we have all the shapes accounted for, then we just have to use the formulas. We have a triangle formula, which is area equals 1/2 base times height. We got a rectangle, so that's area equals length times width. We got another rectangle, area equals length times width. We got another rectangle, area equals length times width. We can all do that. We can all do that. Okay, we can find all the faces. We can tell what they are, what shape they are, and we can write down their formula. Now, we simply have to go back and focus on the shape. So this is the first triangle, this guy right here. So I'm going to replace that with 1/2 times 6 times 8. And that comes to 24. Now I'm going to go to the bottom rectangle next. That's this. It's nice to be able to trace them and erase. That's going to be 6 times 22.25. Anybody have that answer? Yeah, George? Anybody have that answer? Matt? That's 133.5 or 50, it doesn't matter. The slanted rectangle, that's this one, that's what I called it. That's 22.25 times 10, which is 222.5. And then that left rectangle, that's what I called it. You can call it whatever you want. Is 8 by 22.25. And I always like to trace it. I just go around it and say, okay, I got 8. And then this line that meets it at a right angle, it doesn't say it, but I have another line that's the same direction and the same length. So there we go. All right. I could use some help with 8 times 22.25. You got it, G?
178.
Exactly?
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, 178. And then we have to take all of these and add them all up. When I add up those, I got 582.
I got 558.
And that is all we can do for today. We'll finish up the rest of it next week. All right, so we have to adjust this because we forgot this part here, times 2. We forgot that we were doing the front and back triangle, so that would have been 48. So that's going to be 24 more onto this. So that's going to be 606. Did anybody get that? So what did we do?
I got 502. That's because I forgot one. I forgot one of these.
Oh, so anyway, we got this, no problem. It is 582 once all that's added in. So